How long has it been since Canada is aiming or pledging or making promises that they're going to meet the 2% NATO target? I can't even remember the decades of Canada trying to meet the target, but has never been able to meet that. I think right now what they're spending is roughly 1.3, 1.4% of their whole economy, the whole GDP on defense. But again, if I see a lot of young people, if I see a lot of young men coming out and saying they want to join military in Canada, that's really not happening. That's really not happening. If I talk about a lot of benefits given to these people who are trying to join military, that is also not happening. Why? The country, Canada, is just not going to spend even more. How many times did you see Pierre Poilievre opposite to Justin Trudeau in the House of Commons in Parliament trying to press Trudeau what is happening with the defense? And again, no answer. Empty promises. Why is it that Canada has to go out and beg, literally beg US to help Canada if Russia and China decides to come against Canada? Here's the thing. Russia and China or Iran, they have their issues or they have their beef with US about whatever issues they have with the US. What if at any time they decide to come after Canada or come after Alberta? Now that we know, we have at least we have some idea that there is a separatist movement going in Alberta. What happens then? I mean, Donald Trump came out and he said you will get defense if you become the 54th state in Canada, when Justin Trudeau was still the Prime Minister in Canada, after Donald Trump had won his presidency in US for 2024. How it's going to play out is it's very unique, and this is what we got to hear, at least on a publicly announced statement for the first time, at least for me. On CBC, during a CBC interview, Mark Carney came out and said 75 cents of every dollar of capital that is being spent on defense, indirectly or directly in Canada, goes to the United States. Roughly 1.37% of the whole GDP of Canada in 2024, which was $2.3 trillion, which roughly equates to $31.5 billion, which was roughly spent on just the defense alone in Canada. Now, if roughly $31.5 billion in 2024 was spent on Canada, indirectly or directly again, 75 cents on dollars going to US, which means $23.6 billion out of the $31 billion is going to the US just for them to be able to support Canada if there was any other country who were trying to come after Canada. Now, that was a treaty between US and Canada. Again, we can see that Donald Trump did not keep the treaty up for much long before he said that either you become the 51st state or we won't support you if you don't. And then if Canada should decide to raise its spending to almost 2% of the GDP, which is 2.3 trillion again, then it's roughly $46 billion that Canada would have to spend on its defense. But Canada is not doing that right now. Rather, Canada would much rather spend that money on other things. For example, be it indigenous treaties or be it on infrastructure that nobody really doesn't know where that money is going in, infrastructure or other policies and plans that people don't really know. I'll come out and I will say to a lot of people out there, I think the $10 a day daycare program should be scrapped. I think that the $10 a day daycare program right now, which is being given to young families out there who needs to send their children to daycare, I think that policy should be scrapped. Taking almost more than $50 billion a year just to keep that policy in Canada, which the government is paying to the daycares, and the families just have to pay roughly $300 to $500 every month per child. This is something we can. I think Canada also need their counter of DOGE in like in US Department of Efficiency in Government. I think we also need something like that can make the government a little bit more smaller and try to save money where we really do not need to spend a lot of money. But what are your thoughts on this, Sunny?
Yeah, it's a good amount of dollars are going to US right now. I see Mark Carney, his approach to the defense is in the same strength to raise the strength of Canada in itself. He has already put in words that he is looking to invest in Canada as much as possible. Either it is being using whatever aluminium, steel, parts that they can use to build whatever military things that they can do over here. So trying to benefit Canada as much as possible, and or it could be trying to source out the equipment or machinery from a different nation as well. It could be Australia, it could be France or any other nations, trying to see what other sources can we join with, can we accomplish things in a better way. That way we don't have too much of a dependency on US, which I think is a good approach in the current scenario where your for so long relation with a neighbor has come to a halt due to certain things, be it tariffs or be it their protectionist view for US to have the industry in the US itself. Um, and this approach I think is not bad. He's putting in the right agendas, he's putting in the right approaches to maintain the Canadian nationalism and also to maintain the Canadian economy within itself, to try to grow their national defenses as much as possible and try to use the resources within the country.
So right now, check this out. The NATO secretary, right? NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte. He wants all the member countries in the NATO to spend even more. He wants to, like you said before, Sunny. They want to increase the ceiling from 2% of the GDP for the member countries to almost 5% of the GDP, where, as per the NATO Secretary General, 3.5% of the 5% uh, will be spent on directly on military defense equipment, and then 5% will be spent on defense and training related items. If Canada is not able to meet the 2%, I think it's going to be very interesting scenario when we have to see when this the 5% of the GDP thing is going to be voted upon in late June this year. How will Canada show its face in that meeting? I think it's going to be really interesting. How will Mark Carney show his face? A country not able to even meet the 2% target. I mean, a country like Japan is able to meet the 2% target, but Canada is not able to meet that target, and then they are going to vote to spend even more. Very interesting. But these are the times when Mark Carney is taking actions that I like, at least what Justin Trudeau should have taken before. For example, Mark Carney is already going out and talking with Europe and UK to come into a pact, to come into an agreement with Canada where they would be able to share their military. For example, and I think King Charles also came out and he said about this in the
Yeah.
after throne speech. I didn't hear the throne speech properly, but I think he also related to this that the Europe they passed this plan in 2024, and now they are going to be making this happen into a reality. And I think the plan is called Rearm Europe, and this is what the Rearm Europe program really is. It is a defense plan which is aimed at significantly increasing the military spending. There you go. And arms production over the next 5 years, with a budget of approximately, and listen to this, Canadian $1.25 trillion. Now, that is the total spending budget. How much of that is going to be spent by Europe versus how much of that budget is going to be spent by Canada? We really have to see. When in by July 1, I think we should have more answers. Canada has committed to joining this program by July 1st, as confirmed in the throne speech delivered by King Charles. There you go. So, in the throne speech, King Charles did confirm that by July 1st, Canada will be coming into this program. How much will Canada spend as a part of this agreement? We have to see. Because right now, all we see is that we are spending as a country, but really we're not able to see the results. And then again, this move also helps Canada to defend itself in the Arctic region of Canada. Now, Sunny, do you know what the Arctic region in Canada is? Arctic region in Canada is the Northwest Territories, the northern part of Canada. Northwest Territories, none of it, Yukon,
Yukon.
that area. Now, why Arctic? Now, Arctic, they are saying that it involves a lot of rare earth materials, oils, gases, and precious minerals that a lot of these countries are looking for. What countries are looking for these things? Countries like Russia, China, US, and other countries where Canada really needs to step up its military game against. So, what they are claiming is in the Arctic region, in those places, the ice is melting, which is giving more access, which is giving an increased access to resources like oil, gas, minerals, and alongside emerging shipping routes, which have intensified competition among nations in the Arctic region. So 100% Canada needs to invest in its military and defense program way more than before. Now, I don't think this is the time where they can blame the spending on economy and increasing the economy and just leaving the defense on the side. I think this is the time where they should come out with programs to get more youth to apply for to join the army, to join the navy, to join the marine, to join the military in Canada. I think this is the time where Mark Carney should publicly come out and say what's really going on with the defense budget in Canada. Because if Arctic region is not secured properly in the coming few years, right now you are just hearing about the separatist movement going on, or annexing Canada, or Alberta trying to separate from Canada. I think in the few years, because of this dispute, you are going to see a lot of countries trying to come and actually take actions to annex those areas if Canada does not give in. Because Canada, by a far and long shot, does not have as much defense and military capability as US. So these programs, or participating into these programs, for like for example the Europe rearm program and other defense programs that Canada is really trying to become a part of, I think this is more than necessary than ever before. Um, and I think not just that, I think Canada also needs to invest into a company, or at least try to build with their own sovereign wealth fund. So you saw in the news that US is trying to build their own sovereign wealth fund. Canada has its own sovereign wealth fund, which a lot of people might not know about, but it's called the CPP. Yes, the CPP, the Canada Pension Plan, is really the sovereign wealth fund through which Canada invests in a lot of infrastructure investments. And I think this is the time where Canada should try to come out and try to create a company, just like, or at least try to create funding for a lot of companies, Canadian companies, not outside foreign companies with foreign direct investment. These should be Canadian companies. For example, Lockheed Martin in US, who can invent new weapon systems and new defense inventions and new strategies on how to build this equipment into Canada, so that we can create our own, if not equal to US, something similar, so that we don't really need a lot of help from other member countries to support us if there should be any issues on the Arctic or territorial claims. Arctic region is becoming more and more, day by day, a growing hot topic. Before I get into this topic of Arctic sovereignty, do you have anything to put in this, Sunny?
So far, Archit, Mark Carney has put forth the agendas to have more surveillance in the northern region, covering either the northeast territories, Yukon, and try to have more footprint over there. That way, they can monitor the area well. Uh, Currently, the proposal is for 10 months surveillances through the whole year, and hopefully that will go into the national defense budget as well, and we'll see the numbers as the government proceeds as well. In terms of the sovereignty of the region, yes, that is in question right now, just because of it being a sector where there's a lot of rare earth metals, like you mentioned, oil, gas, advantages of using the passage over there compared to the other one. It's saving around a third of the route itself, so there's a lot of savings there for it to be used. Currently, the pathways may be used for maybe a month or two only during the summers. However, implementing strategies in place using icebreakers, that passage could really open up opportunities for all the countries to use as well. And that is one of the reasons why all the countries, including Russia, China, US, Canada, and even the Nordic nations like Sweden, Finland, Greenland, Iceland, they are trying to move into the directions to have their forces in place. That way, they have pretty much a cut of the pie as well for themselves. Um, Taking all of that into consideration, one of the reasons behind that to be moved for US to come into that we discussed about the Golden Globe coming in, Golden Dome coming into the picture, is due to the national security concerns as well. Because say if one of the countries is moving forward with their forces and trying to annex that particular area for their development, how are other countries going to react if they're not launching their military in the place as well? um,
Exactly. Now, I think bulk of it you already mentioned in the thing. Now, again, there are some sovereignty claims over the Arctic region, and like I said before, as well, Sunny, this is something Canada really needs to take an action plan on. They really need to have an action strategy right away. They need to know what they want to do. Again, territorial claims in the Arctic involve disputes and overlapping claims over land and sea and seabed, particularly as ice melts. They are very fast. Very quickly, they're going to realize and recognize what are the shipping routes and what they want to claim. I mean, just look at the issues which are going over the Panama Canal and all the dams and canals which are already built over there, all the shipping routes that have been maintained over there. And we can see right now, as the picture becomes more clear and clear, who controls so many areas in Panama for the shippings to cross, and how many fees are going to be paid. And if Canada does not take any action plan right now, Canada is going to lose their own territory very quick and very fast. The Arctic is becoming a focal point for global powers, including the US, Russia, and China, especially. There are more countries as well, but these are the main countries that Canada really needs to make a military defense plan against. Canada is working to assert sovereignty while balancing diplomatic relations. Before I read over this thing, but do you think Canada really is going to be able to create a military action plan before these countries are quick to recognize and realize a shipping route which is able to form near the Nunavut and Northwest Territories area, Sunny?
There is a possibility for Canada to do it. However, that possibility will go into effect if other countries, for example, Australia, Europe, the rear arm, Australia's equipment, the tie-ups that we had, maybe France stepping in as well. If these countries try to step in alongside Canada, I think in general this is gonna increase the safety security of all the nations involved as well.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think people or other countries have been able to find all what natural resources are hidden beneath the seabed, but I think very soon they're going to find out very important resources like oil, gas, minerals. These resources right now are more necessary than ever before. I mean, just check out I think there are a lot of very interesting videos made on the sea mining, ocean mining right now going on. Especially Elon Musk's company looking into that, how they can mine. There was a very interesting video I just saw the other day, I think from CNBC, where they were explaining on how the ocean mining is becoming crucial day by day, because these companies are going to be able to find a lot of lithium and copper minerals like lithium, copper, and iron under the seabed, which are more and more critical day by day for these chips and for the batteries that we are going to use in the new and upcoming brand new electric cars. I mean, again, Sunny, you can make the electric cars only so much affordable as long as you have a constant enough supply of these minerals.